Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome again to Ohtalks, a webinar series that aims to inform and give insights about property, investments, entrepreneurship, technology, and financial literacy, all subjects that are close to the heart of our prop tech company, Ohmyhome. I'm Julian, Marketing Manager of Ohmyhome Philippines, and I am happy to be your host for today. We are going to be talking about personal finances and how your day to day expenses can turn to savings through property investments. For our lovely viewers out there, you can check out the Oh My Home app on both Apple and Google Play stores for all your property needs. And without further ado, let me introduce to you our guests for this episode. The first guest we'll have today is the Senior Associate Sales Director of International Sales from SM Development Corporation, Edessa, Montano. She has been in the real estate industry since 2004, and she has extensive experience as a PRC licensed real estate broker and has worked with big developers for the past several years. She began working in international sales in 2006, serving expat Filipinos and OFWs for 15 years and counting. Currently a Senior Associate Sales Director of SMDC, where she has been employed since 2011. Edessa has been a consistent part of the top three Associate Sales Directors for the sales group for the past 7 years. And our second guest is the Division Head of the Bank of the Philippine Islands, or BPI, Mr. Mark Emmanuel Canlas, currently heading the Economic Research and Credit Information Division of the Corporate Credit Products Group of the Bank of the Philippine Islands. Mark Canlas has over 7 years of experience in the banking industry. After earning a bachelor's degree in economics at the University of the Philippines and graduating magna cum laude, he also earned a master's degree from the University of Sydney, a postgraduate diploma from the University of London, and worked for a significant time as an economic attaché at the British Embassy, Manila. So, let's all welcome Edessa Montano and Mark Canlas. Good afternoon, both of you.
Hi, Julian. Hi, everyone.
Hello, Edessa. Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope both of you are doing well. And on behalf of Oh My Home, we just like to thank you for taking the time from your busy schedule to be with us today. And I'm sure our viewers are dying to know about how they can be saving or cutting down on their expenses. But before we start, how are you doing both? Like, how has your 2021 been so far? Sorry, Mark, go ahead. How has your 2021 been so far?
I thought so 2020. It feels like March 20. Nothing changed. We just go to the office every other week. But yeah, it still feels weird. But it's good.
It's good. It's good. How about you, Edessa?
2021. It went so fast. No, from January to March. January I was with spending time. With family. Now I'm in Dubai, so things are happening so fast. SMDC has been busy the past month, so that's why kami rin, we are just as busy as the whole company. But no complaints. We're very happy. We're very happy to service our clients in different parts of the world. Kaya very very happy.
Right. Thank you so much. Actually, it's nice to know that we were still fortunate to be hearing from you while you're in Dubai on business, right? Yeah. So before we get to asking about the questions, right? Asking you about questions. May I ask you though, Mark and Edessa? Let's start with Mark first. What are you looking forward to this 2021?
The vaccine and traveling. This is lucky she's traveling. But I lost 5
So
flights.
this is for work. So I wish I was traveling for leisure, but but this is for work. But I hope my boss is not watching, but I'll inject some leisure time here in Dubai now. Might as well. I'm here na diba? Risk my life
Correct.
going here.
Correct.
How about you, Edessa? What are you looking forward to this 2021?
I am really looking forward to normalcy. No, I know we're away from probably years away from where we started, yung old normal. But I am hoping that 2021 can just kickstart that phase of normalcy for everyone. Like I said, no, in the introduction, I am excited to be at work now, and I'm excited just to continue on working. So reaching out to our OFWs here in Dubai, in the US, and so on and so forth. So that's what I really, really wish for this 2021.
Right, and I think both of your wishes are shared by a lot of people. Myself, ako, I
I'm
want the
sure.
vaccine to be here. I want normalcy to be the norm, kumbaga, for everybody's sake. And again, salamat na nandito kayong dalawa. And we just like to get the ball rolling so that we can discuss about things that our audience will actually be excited to hear about. So let's
Yeah.
start. So for both of you, maybe this
Mhm.
for this question, let's start with Edessa. How would you describe yung typical day-to-day spending of like the average Filipino?
Okay. Siguro just to start, no, I've been working with overseas Filipinos for the past 10 years or so, and have a much better or clearer understanding of the spending and saving habits, particularly, here in Dubai, no, the United Arab Emirates, where you have over 750,000 Filipinos from different professions. So if it's okay, Julian, I'd like to answer from that context, no.
Sure.
Um, for OFWs dito here in the UAE, spending will revolve around, siguro number one is cost of transportation. So you have gas, the pay toll if they have their own cars, the metro or the train system, which will cost more or less a little bit less than 100 pesos siguro per direction. You have meals. So meals here will cost you in our money is between 200 to 700 pesos, depending on
Mm.
where you eat, no, if it's tipid food or if it's fast food or somewhere decent, no, so it depends on that. um, let's also include housing, in the list of expenses, since ang OFW dito, it's one of their biggest expense, spending an average of about siguro 14,000 for a private room only, for a private room with a shared bath in the
Mm.
city, plus you have utilities. So for the average Pinoy here in the UAE or an OFW, that's basically where the money goes, no, in terms of their day to day.
How about for you, Mark? How about from what your experience is or your perspective on spending of Filipinos?
Well, for us, the way that we look at it is we check out the family income expenditure survey. So from there, generally the Filipino family earns around 300,000
Mm.
pesos a year, and then saves 70,000. So about 30%, 25% savings rate. So that's not a lot, but that's how it goes. Generally, 40% goes to food, 10% goes to rent, 10% goes to utilities. The last 10% goes to transport, similar to what Edessa was mentioning. And then the rest is, the miscellaneous expenses, and then some savings. So there, it's not a lot. If you think about 300,000 per year, that's only 6,000 US dollars. So we're still lower middle income in terms of income classification, and we're not a big saver. Most of our savings is just in deposit, so that's also why our capital market is relatively underdeveloped.
Right. And I think one of the reasons this is the case is that, of course, I'm not speaking for all of Filipinos, but I think there's a lack of perhaps information or
Yeah,
education about
that's
how
right.
they can or where they are able to wisely put their money or investments on. That said, though, would you have any, based on like the perspective that sinabi ni Dessa from OFWs and then from what you're talking about, Mark, would you say that there are unnecessary expenses that an average Filipino has? And maybe we can just as a starting point talk about these expenses or
Mm.
things that can be more wisely spent.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. About 30% is miscellaneous, and even some of the food is actually dining out.
Mhm.
About 25% of the food expense, which is around 10% of the total budget, goes into dining out. So that is something that people could translate to savings. So definitely, yeah.
Okay.
How about
Um,
for you, Edessa?
all right. If you think about it, now there are actually many unnecessary expenses that we can identify when it comes to our OFWs now. But just to name a few, Mark has mentioned some of them. So number one is what comes to mind is drinking and dining out, no? Sabi nga ni Mark, is really an expense for, I guess, most people, or most Filipinos from any part of the world, di ba? Kasi, like, well, in relation to Filipinos here in the UAE, not all OFWs kasi are able to bring along their families in the countries where they work, no? So, ang loneliness dito is really something that they struggle with, no? So being out with friends and colleagues, connecting with people, drinking and eating out is a way for them to ease the feeling at first, until it becomes a lifestyle, until it becomes a weekly or a daily thing. So that's when it needs to be corrected, no? That yung overspending on drinks and food, no? Another is overspending on pasalubong, ang mga OFWs, no? Overspending on pasalubong, abak, pa-celebration, birthday, graduation, no? But this is a common OFW practice. But I think naman, this is an overcompensation for being an absentee family member. So, be it an absentee mom, a dad, a husband, a wife, a son, a daughter, etc. No? So, they tend to fill in the absence through ayuda, Number three, that's very evident siguro here, that's something that comes to mind, is unnecessary spending on gadgets.
Oh
Yon. So,
yeah.
latest mobile, laptop, tablet, anything that gets them on the net. So, why? Well, for one, Filipinos naman kasi, remain top of the ranks when it comes to social media or internet usage, di ba? Would you agree with me, no? But I read somewhere that we're clocking in about 4 hours a day versus the global average of about 2 hours, no? So I guess that explains that, no? And actually, for some, to be honest, gadgets are viewed as an investment for reasons that are really beyond me, no? But on the bright side, I've noticed significant positive changes on spending and saving habits of our OFWs compared to, say, 10 years ago. So yesterday, I was just talking to our incoming business partners, and I noticed, no, that there is a sincere desire to set money aside for the future as compared to the first few years that I was here. No, it's a very big difference. So in this aspect, no, this is good news.
When you mentioned Edessa business partners, are these Dubai natives or OFWs pa rin you're talking about?
These are our business partners. We call them marketing partners. These are our local, well, Filipinos, basically Filipinos living and working in other parts of, well, overseas.
Oh,
Some are
okay.
not in the Philippines. So here in Dubai, we have a few thousands already, and one of our assignments here is to develop a network of marketing partners to help us cascade information on the products of SFPC.
Yeah, actually, what both of you said, like what Mark said about whining or dining out and
Mhm,
gadgets, that Odessa mentioned is that, kasi for the typical or the common, the everyman, the every Filipino, it's
mhm,
just baka yung question about how can these day-to-day or expenses affect yung long-term financial security. I think that's something that may not be that in their consciousness. And perhaps you can, both of you can share about this thing. Why is it the case that it's not uh, being thought about by the common man or common woman?
Um, ako, I believe it's about identifying what's necessary, to spend on every day and allocate the unnecessary to savings and investment. So, for example, instead of having coffee in, say, a famous coffee shop, let's just put it on famous coffee shop. Okay,
Famous coffee shop.
famous coffee shop. So where you spend about maybe 150 pesos per cup, or what do you call those glass tumblers? Ganyan. So 150 pesos, let's say, spend. You can in fact choose to skip the expensive coffee and include that amount to an investment purchase. So 150 pesos times 30 days is about tama ba 4,500 a month.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
If you add another 4,000, you can already amortize a unit in SMDC's threes residences. Kasi a unit in threes is only around 8,000 a month. So in
Mhm.
fact, you'll be surprised how a small amount of 150 pesos per day can bring you closer to owning a home, no? So that's how I see it.
Actually, good thing that you pointed it out kasi a lot of, di ba that's what they call the Filipino dream. The Filipino
Yeah,
dream
of
is
course.
owning your own house,
It's
right?
an aspiration for every Filipino.
For every Filipino, correct. And actually, what you mentioned na 150 pesos is just one cup of coffee. You
Yeah.
haven't factored in yung upgrades or upsizing or
Yeah.
even
That's
the
right.
next cup of coffee you'll get after work.
That's true. Or bubble tea. So it
Or,
depends on the
yeah,
taste buds. Some have
correct.
coffee, some have bubble tea.
Or to
How
send me
about,
like.
or Sunday Light?
Oh yeah, yeah, that too.
Correct. So how about you, Mark? Care to weigh in on how these day-to-day or small expenses can actually affect financial security, or they may be missing out on an opportunity?
Actually, I like the way that Edessa placed it. Na it's essentially 2 cups of coffee in that expensive cafe would actually get you a unit already. And then also, any good insurance agent who you'll speak with is 100 pesos. 100 pesos a day essentially saves you 40,000 a year, and that 40,000, if invested, becomes 80,000 in 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
The compounding value of money is actually a great thing. It's a great wealth accumulator. Now, if you actually don't spend the money now, you will actually be able to have it larger in the future. And then we're not even talking about the fact that the stock market is down.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find stocks at about a third of their previous 2019 prices. So if you buy that and then actually it returns to 2019 prices, your 1 peso becomes 3 pesos. So that there's a lot of investment opportunities that people are missing out. I think what people are missing is the correct perspective. For example, the way that Edessa placed it, like dalawang Starbucks coffee me or for me, dalawang San Miguel, my favorite drinking spot would actually end up being a unit in SMDC like Grace.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And actually, you both shared yung mga expenses and your perspective on why is it so. So actually, maybe what our audience can also appreciate would be maybe you could share with them some practical advice on how can they begin putting aside money or how do they start investing ba? Like for example, let's go from property side from Edessa. How can they do can they follow or how can they start
Okay.
owning, for example, property?
First of all, first and foremost, one must create a budget for
Mhm.
your daily or monthly needs and adhere to it. That's the key. You have to stick to your plan. Okay? Because having a budget maps out more or less what you can and cannot spend, no? Then set some money aside for savings and investment. Actually, having a forced savings plan is very helpful because this ensures a person or you that you don't spend money that you don't have on hand. So
Mhm.
investing in real estate is one of the best ways to secure your future. With real estate kasi, you put your money in and you wait for your property to increase in value over time with little to no effort. So that's the nature of a real estate investment, especially when you invest in a pre-selling property. So for example, if I may, one of our properties across Naiya, so ano lang to, it's very, very, the proximity to the airport is just a few meters away. That's how close it is, no? So it's Gold Residences, which is essentially a township development, no? So a township means it has a residential, a commercial, and an office component within the vicinity. So gold's values had grown around 10 to 15% over the past 4 months in a pandemic, ha? So you can
Wow.
just imagine, no, how much more in the next 6 months when the project is actually completed, no? So not only does a property grow in terms of value, no, but it can also provide income through rentals for as long as you want it to. Um, so you know you'd really want to have these kinds of investments that can give you passive income to help you build your future. So for me, let's try to get rid of the bahala na si Batman mentality and really make a plan. That's for me.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, it's a funny term, pero it's all too real na
Yeah,
maraming
that's true.
have that mentality.
Mhm.
How about you, Mark? Any advice or practical tips you think that the Filipino, common Filipino should do to be able to save money for their future?
I think the best way that I would think of it is like scare the shit out of them. Like how much money do you actually need to have in your bank account when you're 60 so you don't go
Hmm.
around children asking for money for maintenance meds? The answer varies from person to person, but at the minimum, I think people should have around 10 million in the bank by age 60, just to tide yourself over with expenses like food, your internet plan, all those traveling requirements. I think that's how I would look at it.
Hmm.
um, wha- and then that amount that you need to have in the bank should should be something that should be backed up by a savings plan.
Okay.
So yun. And I
Actually,
think
both.
for
Go ahead. Go
Edessa,
ahead.
what I like is if you actually have a few properties that you're renting out by 60, that could be your answer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, we've also talked about what are the parang unnecessary expenses. But in a normal course of of a person's spending, would you say what would you say are yung worthwhile expenses for the average person? Kasi baka we're scaring them like Mark said too much about it, diba? So, would you say that there are some worthwhile expenses naman? Mark, can you take the question first?
Well, there are a lot of worthwhile expenses, but I'm a believer in like getting it the cheapest. For example, buy needs in bulk. Example is my favorite example that I've actually done is um, when Ariel and Downey was on a 50 off thing, I bought 20 of each. So I went
Hmm.
crazy. So people were looking at me like, why is he hoarding? Is he going to die? So yeah, but I mean, how often do these things go on half off? I mean,
Right.
you don't normally see them. So I like getting the normal things and then storing them. So yun, I mean, those are necessities naman and they don't
Yeah.
expire. So yeah, so that's one of the things that I like. And then also, maybe they should consider a lot like having credit cards so you don't actually spend cash. So you can
Hmm.
wait off the 55-day from purchase to actual payment. So there.
Understood, understood. How about you, Edasa?
Siguro, um, apart from actually, first of all, na-curious ako
Huh?
kay
Hey,
Mark right
Mark.
here. Ganong katagal mo ginamit yung Downy na yon? Yung
Year, a
binili
year,
mong 20 pieces. Hindi mo
a
siya
year.
nanigas over ano, a
1 year
year.
lang. 1
Wow,
year.
1 year. Hindi naman siya nanigas or anything. Kasi
I
parang
gave
'di ba
some to my
tumitigil
brother. I gave some to my
hindi mo siya
brother.
medyo naglapot, after. But yeah,
Yeah.
like, going back to your question, apart from essential spending, no, because everyone naman has non-negotiable expenses, no, like daily needs, children's education, et cetera. One must still have a savings plan, no, a plan that involves both say keeping and investment, no. Apart from the dailies or the essentials, you have to really have some money for safekeeping to serve as an emergency fund, no? And also an investment to serve as a part of your future slash retirement plan, no? So not to sound partial again, but this is why a property investment can really set you up for a worry-free future. Kasi especially for OFWs here in the Middle East. Dito kasi residency is not permanent, no? It's tied to their visa, to their working visa, to be exact,
Mhm.
no? So there will come a time na they will have to go back home to retire after working. They need to be able to take care of their future habang they while they still can, while they're earning a currency 14 times more powerful than the Philippine peso, no? So we encourage them to start now para they can create a better setup for the future, because for them, time is of the essence. So yun, that's how I see it in terms of essential spending. So it's really apart from the daily essentials and the obligations, you really have to have an emergency fund and an investment fund.
Actually, I really like that story that Mark shared about the downy,
Mm-hmm.
the downy thing eh. And
Na-curious
then
nga ako
actually,
kanina eh.
ako din eh. And actually,
Resonate.
it segues well kasi our next question is actually about can you share personal experiences that you have had on finances and savings that made you realize the importance of managing one's budget? Because I'm sure, like back then, before you had that parang epiphany or realization na, oh, I should be spending for this. You mean maybe you also passed through the phase na, okay, I'm spending my money willy nilly. So what was that time? When was that time na na-realize, oh, I should be spending my money more wisely? Right, any takers?
I don't want to start.
Go, Edessa.
Sige, I'll take one for the team.
Sure.
Okay, hindi, for me kasi you really have to start early, no? And have a plan. Like I always mention, no? When I was younger, having a savings plan, let alone an investment, was really not a priority. Aminin nyo, kayo rin, when you were younger, di ba? You just, YOLO eh, YOLO tayo when we were
YOLO.
younger. But, siguro during my time, there was also a lack of information and education for young adults at the time. Kaya siguro that was so, no? Kaya ako, personally, I started quite late. Pero now, I see young adults in their 20s and 30s with multiple properties, no? Doing a balancing act on their daily expenses and their investments. Pero you know what? They get by. They get by. And I'm sure na yung future self nila will thank them for that initiative, no? So looking back, siguro as a lesson, I should have started early. But again, it's really never too late.
How about you, Mark? When was or can you share a personal experience about when you started yung saving or wisely managing your finances?
Sorry. Nawala yata kayo.
Oh.
Sorry. So when I was 21, I was going out 4 times a week, every week. So that was 16,000 pesos a month, which was about a third of what I was making just going out and clubbing. Yeah. So, I mean, 16,000. I mean, there's a mention before na at 8,000, it would have been a property. I would have had two. And then it
Yeah.
would have doubled in value at least over the last 18 years. I'm turning 40. So, yeah. So how much compounded interest would that money have gotten? So I think of course looking backwards is always 2020. That's why I didn't want to start because I'm like I'm going to be the bad example.
Clubbing.
Naubos ang pera going clubbing. Good job. So pero I think the point of it is like imagine how yung value ng 16,000 pesos in 2003 and then what that would have represented in terms of that would have been millions up to now, especially it was continuing until I was 27, so that would have been a good number of millions or a few properties. So yeah.
Right. Right. And actually, I think some of our viewers have also sent in questions for both of you. Let me just read some before we proceed with the other set of questions. Okay, so this is from for Mark. A question says, Kyla says, is 10 million savings liquid assets? Or I think this is in reference to you mentioned what at the time of 60 years old. So is 10 million savings liquid assets or can be your net worth?
I think it should be something that's earning income, like so more or less baka mas liquid asset. Pero if you get rental income naman, like if your property is 3 million and then you're getting a 30,000 rent on it, then that's good enough. It's something that tides you over. It's monthly rental or interest that comes in quarterly from the bank. Uh, I, that's
Sorry, kind of cut off.
I don't think it should be your net worth. So
Oh,
around
okay.
million is net worth. 10 million should be liquid asset by 60.
Okay, understood. And let's take another question from our audience. Okay, so this is from Herzon. Question is it a good time to buy properties now? And is it also a good time to buy two questions from him? A good time to buy properties. How about outside of Metro Manila or inside? I guess Edessa, you can take this one.
Is it a good time to buy property now? It's always a good time to buy property because the very nature of a real estate investment is that the values grow over time. So regardless if there's an if there's something going on economically, or if there's a pandemic going on, um real estate kasi is an essential. If you look at the hierarchy of needs, real estate is shelter. Everybody needs property at the end of the day. During the pandemic, we were all made to realize that our 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 properties were actually shelter from
Mhm.
the evil virus that's out there. No, so real estate really is a necessity, and by that, um, real estate will never lose its value. The nature of it always goes up over time. So if you invest now, you can enjoy the elbow room of appreciation of property. So 5, 10, 15 years down the line. So if you
Mhm.
invest 5 years naman down the line, sayang naman yung nilipas na 5 years niya na tinaas ng property niya. So I do believe, that's a strong belief of mine, that there's really no unperfect time. So it's
Mhm.
always today. Today is the perfect time to buy or to start with a property investment. With for most properties naman, hindi naman yung nagre-require ng cash payment immediately. So it's
Right.
usually paid over a number of years, maybe 5, 6, 7 years, depending on the building time. So you really don't have to dole out millions of pesos immediately today, tomorrow, ganyan. You can
Mhm.
probably start with a amortization between, like I mentioned earlier, no, 8,000, or you can go as much as 15,000, depending on where your property is situated. The second question is, what's the second question again? Sorry.
Is it like better to buy inside or outside of Metro Manila?
Depends on the use. Depends on the
Uh-huh.
on the use of the property. If you want your property to serve as a business for you to generate passive income, then siguro I would suggest to explore a property in the city.
Mm.
Kasi siyempre, since the Philippines or Metro Manila is being urbanized, everybody wants to be in the city, foreigners, locals, people from the provinces, everybody wants to have a piece of the city. So it's because of that demand, there's a natural spillover on the residential sector, no? So if it's for rental, or if you want to see your property appreciate in value, then explore a property within Metro Manila, to be exact, in the CBDs, no, Makati, you have Ortigas, we have plenty of CBDs now. No? But if your intention is to use it for personal purposes, and then
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong taking a look at properties outside of the city, in the provinces, or in the fringes of Metro Manila. Because we
Mhm.
have, uh, I've seen properties sprouting in the areas of Cainta. Ayan. It's not really in the city, but then, it's near enough to be a part of Metro Manila. So I've seen properties sprouting up there. And in the fringes of Quezon City, yung mga Novaliches, Fairview, the values of those properties are not the same as those that are in the city, but it can serve well as a residential serve well as for residential use.
Understood. Actually, let's take one more question from the audience. This comes from
Mhm,
Gino. It's
mhm,
related to what you mentioned earlier.
mhm.
So for Dessa, what projects of SMDC would you recommend for rental business?
Okay.
So maybe you can mention specific projects.
All right. Siguro it's also notable to mention that SMDC has about 50 projects nationwide. We have properties in Metro Manila, to Cavite, Laguna, so Pampanga, Bulacan, and then to the Visayas area, Bacolod, Iloilo, and Davao. But if you're looking to invest in properties that you want to rent out eventually, no, stick to the ones that are in the city centers, like I mentioned earlier. So to the person who posed the question, try to check out SMDC's three latest projects in the city. No, one is Gold Residences across NAIA. Another one is Mint Residences along Pasong Tamo. Kasi at the end of the day, Makati is still Makati with the highest daytime foot traffic compared to other CBDs. And then Gem Residences along C5, which is a few meters away from Ortigas. So all three are pre-selling with price points between 6 to 9 million pesos, no. Pero the monthly, kasi you don't need to pay cash upfront naman, no. The monthly is between 10,000 to about 17,000, about 50 to 60 bucks to pay. Kaya again, there's elbow room for the value to appreciate as well. And you can find details of these three properties in the Ohmyhome app or website. You can find those properties there.
Thank you so much, Edessa, for making
Or
mention of all
plugging.
my for plugging. Let's take one more question from the audience. I think this is more for
Mhm.
Mark. So, Mark, the question is from Balls. What do you recommend is the minimum amount for savings and investments that you considered substantial enough to get started? I think maybe we can put this into the perspective of you mentioned earlier at 60 years old, dapat you should at least have 10 million. So for a person right now, let's assume someone in their 30s, and they have not yet been saving properly. So what would be like a minimum amount that they could start on, like monthly, daily, weekly? I don't know.
Okay. So I would say around 30 to 40% of your income going to your savings. Like after taxes, kasi syempre
Mhm.
taxes are there all the time. Including if you buy from SMDC. No, taxes are real. So after tax, 30% of whatever you make after tax should be saved. Kasi the earlier you do it, the better. But if you're only starting in your 30s, I'd like to place the number nearer 40 because you're playing catch up. So
Mm.
yeah, I don't think there's a minimum amount for investment. Actually, if you're going to stocks, you can just open a stock trading account at 5,000.
5,000.
So there is no mababa lang yung minimum. So don't be afraid, like explore it. And I think SMDC mga 9,000 daw per month. So if you look at those options, 5,000 to open a stock trading account, 9,000 to buy a property with SM. So there are a lot of options, and most of them are already tailor fit to suit certain budgets. Kasi at the end of the day, they're trying to encourage people to come in and to be part of the wealth creation process. So yeah, I don't think there's a minimum where the higher you can get as percentage of your income, the earliest possible time that you're investing into things, the better.
Actually, I just want to run it by or maybe share with our users. Then, because when I started working uh, over a decade ago, dating myself, over a decade ago, so nanggaling din ako dun sa phase na I used to spend money, my salary, ubos agad siya. Going out, whatever, when I was single. And when I had a family, syempre nagbago na priorities. But anyway, I just wanted to share kasi I don't know if this is a wise advice. Maybe you could advise me about it. Na when I get my paycheck na, I actually put aside na like 40 or 50% of it. Start pa lang. So I put it in my other like investments or savings. And is that something that you would recommend someone who's starting out to do? To save first before spending, kumbaga.
Yeah, definitely. Parang pay yourself first.
Pay yourself. Oh, nicely put. Paying yourself
Mhm.
first. Yeah, actually, that's never thought of it that way. For both of you, why is it that important for Filipinos or everybody, I guess, to limit daily expenses? I guess it's more timely, especially in the current context of this global pandemic. Mark, sorry, maybe you can
Sorry,
take that
I got
first.
startled. Okay, the pandemic basically showed us that there will be emergencies and that there are things that are not going to be planned. For
Mhm.
example, all of a sudden you need to like go to the hospital because you got COVID, and that's about around 2 million, 2 million
Mhm.
just to get
Wow.
yourself the whole intensive care unit system and all those things. I do know someone who's actually ended up spending 5 million for the whole gig, but that's exactly the point of it. If you don't save, where will you get the 5 million? I know, credit card. I mean, who has 5 million in the credit card? Like, isang swipe 5 million. And so the point of it is, if you don't save, you're not prepared for emergencies. Edessa was mentioning a while back the importance of having an emergency fund and an investment fund, and I agree with all those things. Because the importance of like doing it on a daily basis is we don't ano if it becomes a habit, it happens naturally and day to day. And once that thing is in place, may imagine mo na lang how quickly 10 years pass, and then all of a sudden you have amassed this large nest egg,
Mhm.
and that will be a great thing. Now all of a sudden, because you put into place a system that allows you to navigate through it, and just parang real estate investment. Time passes, and then lo and behold, your 2 million property is now an 8 million property. So there.
Correct, correct. How about for you, Edessa? Um,
Mhm. Siguro just to piggyback on the response of Mark, no, I think it's important, no, because again, harping on the importance of having an emergency fund, no, to use in case you lose your job, or because you have economic volatilities, and in our current case, no, a pandemic, no, so something to tide you over until you find a new job. It's really much better if you have say passive income in place, so that you don't have to rely on your salary alone when this happens, no. As an example, actually we have clients here from the UAE who were retrenched because of the pandemic. So there's quite a number of people of OFWs who were sent back home because they
mm,
just simply lost their jobs, no. But luckily, these clients had rental properties in place, which today, to this very day, is still helping them with their day to day, also with their families, no. So that's actually one of the missions and advocacy that we have here in the UAE, is to educate our OFWs on how to use real estate as a business for passive income, and at the same time match the right real estate product for them. So again, just seconding Mark's opinion earlier, no, emergency funds for situations such as this is really, it's really critical. Now our eyes are more open, I suppose, because this happened.
mm,
So that's how I see it.
To Edessa's point, I own a property in Jazz.
Hmm.
I bought it
oh,
for less than three. It's now 7. So yeah,
That's right.
may
There
pambayad na.
you go.
may pa- when did you buy it, Mark?
I bought it 2016.
5 years ago, basically.
5 years.
Maliit, maigsi lang. And then all of a sudden, pagtingin ko, 7 na siya talaga.
Mark, I have very good taste in properties, huh?
I also have one in life, but my brother lives there.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool to know. So that's for like the current context of the global pandemic. Good advice. But how about for the persons who find it hard to save money because their income or what they're earning is just enough to get by? Do you have advice for people like them?
Advice, siguro find another income stream, no?
Mm.
An income that can augment basically your salary. So if I'm sure if you look, you'll find one.
Yeah, like vlogging.
Yeah, that's
Just
one.
kidding. How about Mark? How about for you, Mark? Um,
I'm sure they still have spurious expenses. Like all of a sudden, pupunta ang mga kaibigan ko sa Cambodia, sasama ako, ipipilit ko yan. Yung mga ganon. I mean, those things, those fear of missing out things, and then you only live once thing. Parang yeah, you only live once, but once you get to 60, you will live that again once. And then that's not gonna be fun. So I'm
mm,
like, it's a hard. I mean, I do have family members who used to be OFWs, and then they come home with 5 million in like retirement money. And like,
mhm.
guys, not enough.
Mm.
Right, right.
5 million was finished in about 4 or 5 years. So I mean, the point of it is trying to tell people that it needs to be a substantive amount that you put in for investment and savings. Because once you get to 60 and you're no longer working, then wala nang pumapasok, palabas na lang lahat.
Mhm. Understood. Uh, we have some other questions from our audience right now. Let me just pull it up. Okay, so what is your from audience named Nico Magalona? What is your best advice to people or individuals finding new property investment for their future life? So I'm not sure if they for in I think it's for more of end user siya. Maybe Edessa, you can take this one.
Siguro just as I mentioned earlier, no. So it really depends on the use of the property, no. So if our viewer is asking about end use, um, it also the budget plays in as well, no. So if you can afford a property that's within the city, we go ahead and do so. Kasi wherever that property, wherever that property is, actually, at the end of the day, it will serve as your home. Kasi ang property has a double use. Number one is that it's your home at the end of the day, some place to hang your hat when you retire, di ba? Another is it's also an investment instrument, a vehicle for you to a method for you to save for the future, no. So if the question is where, no, where shall they invest, which property or which area, what's the question again?
What is the best advice to people finding a new property investment for their future life? I think they want to know where to start. What are the steps? Like, what's their next step? Not really saan.
Okay, siguro that's the first step, no. Identify where first. Identify the use, what you want to do with it, and then identify where. Tapos from there kasi you can shortlist properties that are a match for you.
Okay, understood. So Nico, hopefully you can start your property journey with Ohmyhome
Yes.
or SMTC. We have another question from Kyril Corpus. Okay, so I think this is for Mark. So she asks, how do I know if I'm ready to start investing? Is there a financial threshold you should aim for? And can you recommend types of investments available for young professionals or the average person?
Okay, hold up. That's a lot of questions.
Maybe we can
Um,
tackle the first one. How do I know if I'm ready to invest?
well, that's personal. That's a very personal question. I don't know how to answer that. I If someone sat me down when I was 21 and I was told, "How are you spending your money?" and then essentially identified the 16,000 pesos na I go around drinking and hanging out with my friends as an issue, I would have gotten I would have gotten it in my head and then I would have started investing. But no one did. So now that you're here and you're listening to this, maybe that's how you get started. Someone tells you, na, you should have started after college when you got your first job. So there. Um, is there a financial threshold you should aim for to start? You start when you start earning, because I don't think that there's any. I mean, you know of 16-year-olds buying stocks, right, and making tons of money trading online. So I don't think there is an age threshold or a financial threshold, because if you invest 1,000 pesos and then it doubles, it's great for you. It doesn't mean na kailangan 1 million yung invest rather than just 1,000. This is all about compounding interest and trying to get the best return for your cash. Are there recommended investments available for young professionals and the average person? It will need to be something that you're comfortable in. If you're not very knowledgeable about the stock market or corporate bonds or treasury bills and you don't understand what that's about, consider simpler things like real estate. Yun. I wouldn't recommend going into, like, at this point, like, this is Feb 27, 2020. I wouldn't recommend that people go into like normal deposits, even time deposits. If you have cash that's sitting, put it somewhere. I think properties are discounted now. They're offering like even longer repayment, just to encourage people to invest now because they do understand na maraming nawala ng work, so the demand is not the same. So they're offering more generous payment packages. And also, yeah, stocks now are about a third half of what they used to be. So those are the options. Pero I wouldn't recommend anything that you're not comfortable in. You will need to study how those things work. Kasi I can't recommend stocks to you and then all of a sudden sisihin mo ako because you weren't ready about how it works and then you don't understand na hindi ko siya pwedeng i-pull out bilisan. Kasi baka mababa yung value niya at that point. So find an investment that you're comfortable in and that you understand the risk profile of. Kasi, I mean, stock values, kung bumili ka ng 2019, one-third price than ngayon. So, diba? I mean, there are downside risks to investments, pero there are definitely investments that are easier. Like, sabi nga ni Edessa, I think 11% ang increase in real estate prices, diba? Over the last 3 years.
Thereabouts, yeah.
Yeah, so there. Are you happy with 11% or you want to play times 3? Pero you need to understand that the times 3 has a large risk then of going under. So find something that you understand and you're comfortable in.
Right. Thank you so much. I think si Kyriel has her work set out for her in terms of really studying how to know when she's ready to invest because it's a personal question nga, as Mark said. We have another question from Easy Datuin for Mark and Edessa. Okay. What was your first ever investment? And looking back, was it a good or bad investment? Maybe Edessa, you can start off first.
Like I said earlier, no, I started late, but my very first investment is property.
Oh, okay.
And it's earning rental income now, so it adds to my daily cash flow. So is it worth it? Yes, of course it is.
That's good to know. That's
Mhm.
a good story, kumbaga.
Yeah, it's
How about for you, Mark? What was your first ever investment, and was it good or a bad deal?
Well, yung real investment like hindi namin tinitirahan yung property, is also property, Jazz and Light. I bought it in the same month. Kasi I went
Oh.
crazy. Like, bili tayong dalawa. Ganon. Kaya naman eh. So yun. Yeah,
totoo.
it's
Kaya naman kung
then,
kakayanin.
So
kaya.
there
Tsaka,
you, uh-huh.
malaking discount na binigay.
So actually, viewers and to the audience, there you have it. Our two guests here have the same mind that invest in property
Mhm.
because their first investments were in property.
Mhm.
So thank you so much, Izzy, for asking that. And we're actually nearing the end of our show, so we just want to ask both of you, like, we've been talking about property investments. We've been talking about the expenses na isang Filipino or Pinoy are doing na they can save instead save. But can you share your thoughts on what are or in the financing or personal finance topic that all Filipinos should know about? Kasi we started off the show saying and acknowledging na mababa ang information about these things.
Mhm.
Maybe we can start with the banker. Mark.
Okay. Uh, well, the last thing I'd like to say on that is, it's not about how much you make. It's how much of what you make you spend, and then what is left, what you do with it. I think the people who actually ended up being comfortable in life financially are the people who planned on it, who sat down and said, "This is what I'm going to do, and this is how it's going to happen." Because many of us, including myself, like every time my income goes up by 30% every time I move around jobs. Minsan sumusunod yung cost of living mo. And I don't think na that's a proper way of going at it kasi pwede mo namang invest yung, kumbaga, last month when you were working for company X, you were more than happy to just spend so and so pesos. Bakit ngayon lumipat ka with 30% more income, all of a sudden, ang savings mo is still the same. And you were happy naman with the way na you were spending before. So parang in my head, we need to have a proper perspective of what actually is needed to run our daily life and what it means na every time you have an increased income, sinusunod mo yung cost of living mo. So, yun. So, it's not income, it's income management.
How about for you, Des? So what are like the important things that everybody should know about investing, financing, and saving?
For me naman, I just follow a simple principle, no, on my personal finances, which basically I learned from a pastor I would listen to all the time. It's simple. It's spend some, save some, give some. It's
Mhm.
really very elementary, and you can actually work with percentages. No? So say 20% you save, 70% you spend on your daily needs, and 10% you give. But at the end of the day, the percentages, there, it's up to you because budgeting naman is a personal exercise. Eh. So para sa akin, this simple formula works very effectively.
That was a really good piece of advice. Actually, meron tayong pahabol. Another question from the audience. So this is from Mr. Nico Magalona. In your own investment, so this is for both of you. Can you cite at least one big challenge that you faced in your journey, and how were you able to overcome the situation? Maybe Mark, you can start off with this question.
In your own investment, can you cite one biggest challenges that you face in your journey? I haven't then. I think because I started late, I was playing catch up, and I was more than happy to face the consequences of starting late.
Mhm.
As I said, I bought two properties in 2016. So I was more than happy to, I needed to scrimp on what I was spending. I needed to
Right.
travel less. I was going out less. Pero I understood why I was doing it. So I think what I needed to overcome was myself. I needed to
Mm.
understand what I was doing and why I was doing it and why things needed to change. I think all of us have the power in our hands to change our lives by the decisions that we make every day. Yeah.
No, really, really powerful words actually. Pag-iisipan ko yun after this. After this show. How about for you, Edessa?
Oh, I agree with Mark 100%. And also, parang si Mark, I'm very fortunate not to experience any disruptive challenges, no, with regards to our first investment, no, because it's planned siguro kasi.
Mm.
So you tend to anticipate anything that happens. So our first investment was a property. So we invested in a property that was nearly ready for turnover. So we were expecting the rental to actually subsidize our
Mm.
bank payments, no, our loan payments, which is what's happening right now. Kaya nga,
Mm.
yun nga, I'm fortunate enough not to really be experiencing any uh, big hurdles when it coming from this investment.
Understood. So before we close, though, one last question. What is one simple thing that our viewers can do right now to start saving or be wiser about money? Yung una nilang pwedeng gawin after they log off, what can they do? What should they do?
For me, go through what you earn. Think about other means to earn, and then start planning. That
Planning.
for me is the very first step you should take after
Okay.
you log off from this session. Just
And
right after.
that's also what I'll do. How about you, Mark? Any advice for people who are watching that they can do right after, right now, to start being more wise about money?
Uh, think of, para mabilis, think of something that you can quickly give up. Like, coffee normally from that expensive cafe is sugar, right?
Mm.
It's caffeine and sugar. Is it really good for you to have sugar? And how about you give up those two things, or it could be your two ceramic lights a day. Um, and if you give that up, what do you get in return? And are you happy to make that trade? Think of, para maliit lang siya na step. And then what do I get in return? If I give up a daily habit, which is actually might be unhealthy for me or is an unnecessary thing that I do all the time with my friends, yeah. And then, what do you get out of it? And then, is that thing worthwhile? Kasi sabi nga ni Edessa, your two ceramic lights might actually be a property. So, diba? And then if that's something that you're willing to do on a day-to-day basis, and mahirap yan, 30 days a month, guys, ha? Then go for it. It might actually end up being a very good personal change.
Right. Thank you so much. Actually, so viewers, what you can gather from the previous statements ni Market is that you plan and then you actually set your perspective and make trades or like see what you can sacrifice on and weigh if that is a worthy trade. And unfortunately, that's all the time we have today with our speakers. Thank you both for the amazing insights and pieces of advice. For both of you, Edessa and Mark, do you have any other things you want to share with our viewers? Any upcoming projects you want to let them know or parting words?
Go ahead, Mark.
I
Parting
work for
words.
I can't really say what I'm doing. I'm forecasting what SMDC and Ayala Corp will be making. That's what my job really is. So there's nothing really that I will be plugging.
How about for Edessa?
Well, like I said earlier, no, now is always a good time to start. So let me just challenge everyone, no, right after you turn off this, turn off your or turn off the session, go to the app site or website of Ohmyhome and explore properties for you.
Thank you so much. And just to tell our audience, Edessa said that without any coercion.
No, there wasn't. There wasn't.
There wasn't. And thank you so much, Mark and Edessa. It's been a very, very great session with both of you today. It's been a pleasure to be your host, and we hope to see you soon. Maybe we can catch
Thank you for
up.
inviting us.
Yeah, we're very honored to have both of you, Mark and Edessa, in giving us part of your Saturday. Thank you so much.
Thank you also.
And before we end, I'd just like to remind everybody to check out the Oh My Home app and website for all your property needs. As our speaker, Edessa Montano from SMTC said, he's challenging you to browse or download our app first to look at the properties that can be your first or maybe even second investment. If you're looking to buy, sell, or rent, Oh My Home can be with you at every step of the property journey. And please watch out for our next or our fourth Ohtalks episode, and the details will be on our Facebook channel. And that's it for Ohtalks for this session. I hope that you were able to digest and think about the different pieces of advice and how you can turn your expenses into savings. So from all of us here at Oh My Home, this is Julian signing off. Thank you very much and have a great day ahead of you. Why is Oh My Home expanding to the Philippines?
The goal of Ohmyhome is to be a global player in taking care of everyone's housing transaction journey, starting with the buying, selling, and renting of their homes, and every step after, including the renovation and maintenance of their homes. In Singapore, Ohmyhome is a market leader in providing a one-stop shop property solution when it comes to buy, sell, or rent. We're a unique business model which enables us to provide you with a DIY do-it-yourself solution as well as a full-fledged agency service.
Expanding to Philippines is a logical next step for Oh My Home. In Manila alone, in the last 3 years, we've seen an increase of 11.9% on condominium property prices every single year. And in terms of number of transactions, we have also seen it steadily climbing. So in 2018, there's a record of 54,000 condominium transactions, surpassing the previous year of 53,000 condominium transactions. And with such a huge population, it's only natural that only using reliable technology, with advanced technology, we're able to extend fast, reliable, efficient service to everyone. And in fact, we are not new in Philippines. We actually have an office in Manila for the last 3 years, and most of our tech team members are Filipinos. So extending our services to Filipinos, it's actually a dream come true for my team. So we're so excited about this.